So, our guest tonight, I will leave her to introduce herself as she is here. Welcome on this platform. Can you let us know your name and where you're from?
All right, so my name is Kaycia and I am from Jamaica. Do I need any more details?
Where in Jamaica are you from? Like what parish?
So I grew up in mainly three parishes, St. Mary, St. Anne, St. Catherine. I was just amongst them, to be honest.
Okay, so you passed through.
Yes.
Okay,
But I would probably say St. Mary more because my mother, grandmother, and all of my maternal side is from St. Mary.
okay, fair enough. Um, so could you give us just a little brief information about your childhood days as you while growing up?
All right. So childhood was very complex. It was not. I don't even know if I want to say it's something I'm not proud of because it was out of my control, but it was very, very difficult. Um, I lost my mom when I was almost 3 years old, and that's where the complexity set in, really. So that's where the movement started, moving from one parish to the next because mom died and other family members stepped in and it just didn't go so well. So it was a lot of moving around. Um, I lived with quite a few different people, endured quite a bit of abuse in every sense of the word. And that was basically my childhood, to be honest. It was just a lot of in between. I had a little breaks. Like I lived with my grandmother at one point. I wasn't really abused there. I learned quite a bit from her, but for the most part, it was just kind of just laced with abuse and surviving things that no child should have to survive.
So you been through hell, basically.
You can put it that way.
Okay. Um, I'm not sure if I want to ask you about the abusive side because I don't know if you want to share because we we are here tonight basically to speak about something unfortunate that took your life, basically the better part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I just want us to have a more insight of who is Kaycia and just to get an understanding, get to know you more. So, what school did you attend as a child growing up?
All right, so uh, wow, I went to two primary schools. I went to one in Islington, Water Valley Primary, and then I ended up in St. Catherine where I went to Peartree Grove Primary. I moved from there to St. Mary High School.
I'm going to stop
That
you.
is in Highgate.
I'm going to stop you because you made mention Peartree Grove.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very familiar with Peartree Grove. My mom was living in Amwat district. S-
Wow.
So it's a very close, very, very close,
Interesting.
very interesting. So when you said that to me now, I was like, okay, you
Hmm.
know, because I have
Yeah.
I have a few persons that used to go Peartree Grove school and that basically lived in Peartree Grove. You know what I mean? But, they say the world is small, you know, and, so basically, so carry on. You used to go to Peachy Grove and carry on.
Yeah, so apart from there, and I went to St. Mary High School.
Okay.
So that was the high school that I went to.
So did you finish high school?
No, I So my dad stopped sending me to school when I was in fourth form, 10th grade, on the premise that I would have somehow turned out like my mother. So I guess what he was saying is that my mother died when she was 34 and she had 7 children. When my mom died, my smallest brother was 5 months old. He was still on breast. And I think him saying that to me, it meant that I would have somehow ended up with a lot of children who had different fathers. And that is not a good thing in his eyes. So yeah.
What took your mom, if you don't mind?
I'm going to just get to the point with this one. My dad, yeah, he did.
Is that an assumption or something that you know for a fact?
It's something I know, but I found out years later after she died. Because obviously when she died I was a baby. But it's something I know.
Obviously that hurt you a lot when you found out. Did you approach your dad?
No, I've never approached him about that. Because my dad is kind of a person who, it doesn't matter what happens, even when you're there on the scene when something happens, he's going to tell you that he has no part in it. It does no accountability, so I've never really gone there because there were some other things that happened to me in my childhood that I wouldn't say confront him, I just wanted to hear his side as to why he didn't do anything about them. And he was like, no, them never happened. That could have never happened. It's that type of language. So
So your
no,
father showed no sympathy, no
no,
love.
he doesn't have the capability to.
How much siblings do you have?
6 siblings, 1 sister and 5 brothers.
And this are mixture of your father and mother?
Yes, so my mom, the last 3 that my mom had, which would have been, I was the older one, the oldest rather, so I have 2 smaller brothers. Those last 3 would have been for my dad. The other 4 were for 3 different men.
Okay. What's the relationship with you and your siblings?
We don't have one, unfortunately, and this is tied into the abuse. One of my siblings, one of my brothers, is also one of my abuser sexually. So since that incident took place, my other siblings have since taken side with him, and I have allowed them to do just that because I'm not at that place anymore where I want to fight to say, oh, I want you to sorry for me or take my side, or no. I just allow them to do whatever pleases them.
I know this podcast is mainly about, cancer, but you made references to something that is also troubling. Do you want to elaborate just a little bit before we
And
get
what
into?
in particular?
So I asked you about your siblings, and you made mention about your brother and that you were abused. Do you want to say anything about that? Do you want?
So this happened. So when our mom died, everybody kind of just split up. This family member maybe take this person and that person, and it was kind of all over the place. Now that particular brother was living with his dad because he's the only one for that particular dad, right? In St. Anne, that's where he was living. So we didn't really get to meet up until I was a teenager, and he was a grown adult by this, of course, because he was older. We met up, and my sister kind of organized this, that we wanted to have a relationship. Since I didn't really know him, I only know of him and know his name. So he came to my sister place in St. Mary, and we were there for a while just trying to build a bond as, siblings. And the bond was building quite nicely, if you ask me, until I realized that in the nights he started to inappropriately touch me. But at that particular time, I think my mind said to me that, no man, I'm a brother, just nobody take it to, but then again, my past with the abuse, I got very antsy. But I didn't really, attack him or confront him or whatever. For a time, it just kept going on and on until it left from inappropriate touching to him actually rape one night. And how that happened, it was very brutal, to be honest, because I think he came prepared because he had a ice pick, right? And he held the ice pick in my side, and it was like, because it's one of those rooms that actually, if I stretch out my hand too much, maybe go too far to the right, I would have been able to open my sister's door because the house was that close. You know, because she had a little small guest room at the back, and that's where he and I would stay. So, that was how it happened. And I don't know. Now that I am an adult, I kind of realize that when these things happen, I tend to go in shutdown mode. So what happened is that I didn't tell my sister what was happening because him say, I believed him, right? And it happened over and over and over and over and over and over. I started to write it down. And one day, and this was very similar to how my sister also found out that her baby father had, that's a story for another time, right? I wrote it down in a book, and she was looking through the book, probably think I was writing some boy a love letter or something, and that's how she found what I wrote, and she decided to question me about it, and I told her exactly what has been going on. And her reaction to that was, I'm lying. Yeah. I'm always lying. It's crazy to me. But that's how that situation
this is one of the
ended,
things.
basically.
This is one of the things why so much, women go through so much trauma and in their life, because when they go through stuff like this and they express it to a family member, parents or so forth, they ignore it and they call you a liar, right? And it makes you do not want to even say anything to anybody else because people's going to say you are a liar, and women tend to live with these kind of trauma for the whole life, and it's not something that they can deal with properly because they never get the closure that they deserve. You know what I mean? And so most people, even when they hear about story like this, they tend to draw back because they do not want to get involved. And it's sad that you go through so much of these things and you're still going through stuff. You know what I mean? So I just don't understand, because I have 3 daughters. And if any one of my daughters should come to me and say anything to me like this, I would lose it. I would lose it. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't want any of this to happen to my kids. And I just keep my eyes shut. You know what I mean? That's not me. So it's so sad that family members always tend to call you a liar and do not even investigate.
They
I
tend
am
to
so
believe the other person. Yeah.
I'm so sorry that you go through all of this in your younger days. You know what I mean? And I hope that you are somewhat getting stronger in how you feeling and your memories, because it's not something that you can ever forget. You know what I mean? And it's something that you're going to live with for the rest of your life. But I hope that as you continue in life, you will get stronger in everything you do. So tell us now about this inflammatory cancer.
Hormonal, right?
So you have cancer, but
Right.
there is a publish in the Gleaner that you had cancer twice. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So tell us the first time when you been diagnosed.
Okay, so I was just, to be honest, I think I would have said I was in the peak of getting to where I wanted to go in life. So I was 26 years old when this happened, and as I said before, I didn't get to finish school. So what I did with that time is that I ended up sending my two little brothers to school before I even sent myself back to get some CXCs, right? Ensured that my last brother graduated, because for some reason it meant a lot to me, because the one before that follows me, it didn't graduate. And I was like, okay, so my mother has 7 children, there's no way the 7 of them will go through school and somebody not graduate. She wouldn't be pleased about this. I think I took on that role and started to help financially. I would do my little odd jobs, my little security job, whatever, help out. Send them back to school. So when I got to 25 now, I said to myself that, listen, you need to get on with this thing. So I've always liked social justice, anything, criminal justice, over there is not my thing. Mental health, love those things. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go back to school. At that time I was still doing security, and I was going to do 5 CXCs. I was going to do them in 1 year because I don't have time to be doing 1 and 2. And I remember somebody saying to me, you think you can manage? And I said, okay, so I am going to be working in the days and in the nights, and I'm going to school in the days, because it's 1 year I have. Because I wanted to matriculate to college, university, to get something else done, right? When I finished my CXCs, I was not feeling so well, to be honest. I went to the doctor, I think it was a week after, and the doctor was like, she put me on bed rest, because she was like, you are not supposed to be walking around. What are you doing? So she said, what have you been doing? And I said to her, I've been going to school in the days and working at night. So she was like, nah. The only thing I want you to go home and do is eat, sleep, bathe, and repeat. You cannot do anything. I was shaking like a leaf. But of course, at that time, I was in such a mood in my mind. I was just driven. Meaning that things, so your nervous system will break down and this and that. Never thought of it. Never occurred to me. Never heard of it. Right? So after that, I thought I would have recovered, and I recovered somewhat and got back into a routine, and my shift got mixed up again. So I started work both day and night and settle down. So I said, alright, I'm going to take one couple months and look around to a couple colleges, universities, and see which part I want to go and who I do where, whatever the case may be. And then I just started to get about a fatigue. Maybe just tired all the time. And I was like, maybe it's, anemia, because I've suffered from that too. But anyway, I went to the doctor and she ran some tests and it came back. My blood count was low, but she then decided to ask me about what runs in my family. And I was like, I really don't know on the side that you're asking me, because my mom is not here and my grandma is not here either. My great-grandmother is not here, so there's nobody to really ask about what kind of illness do you guys really, what has been a running thing in the family. I know my grandma had diabetes and hypertension, but I think those things are kind of lifestyle, but you can pass them on genetically either way, right? And she said, you know what, just let me send you go do a biopsy, just to make sure you're cool, just to make sure everything is alright. And we can rule out some things, and then we can probably get into treating you for chronic fatigue or whatever the case may be. And that's how she sent me to the biopsy, and I sat waiting on the result. And when the result came back, her office called me to say I need to come in to talk to doc. And I was like, can doc send me an email or send me something over the phone? She was like, no, you need to come and speak to her. And I was like, okay. So I went in and she was looking at me. I can't remember, she just staring at me like. So when I went in there, I was like, hi doc. And she's not moving, she's just looking. And I said, doc, you alright? And she said, Miss Stevens, so this is not good news. And I was like, okay. So then I kind of wiped the smirk off of my face and I looked on her.
What age were you at this time?
26.
26. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And she was like, this is the worst news ever. This is not the news I don't want to give you. And she went on to say that I have daughters that are a little bit younger than you, and I can't imagine giving them this news. Because it was a woman in about her 50s, early 50s, I think. And when she handed me the paper with the result, and I read, and I said, Doc, break this down there for me, may I talk about this, tell me what's going on. And she started to get into what it was, what caused it, what I'll have to do, what my options are. And I tell you, I sat down there and she talked, and probably by the time she reached the third sentence, I don't hear one thing what she said. Not one
So your
thing.
mind blanked, shocked.
Because I was dazed out. I was like, one time she say, are you hearing me? And I'm like, yeah, not hear her though. Not hearing her. And she said, when she was finished, she said, I'm going to give you some time to process this, and then we can talk some more about what plan you want to choose, what do you want to do, what's your feedback. Because that day they never really have no feedback. What to say, I don't know. I went home.
You made mention that she told you what causes it and what was it. Could you give us that information, like what did she say it was? Obviously cancer, but what did she say caused that cancer?
All right, so at that time it was stage 2, right? And based on the hormonal markers, if you may, it would have been a disruption in my hormones for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think at that point, the reason why they found that is because, remember, I was coming off of a year of really not sleeping at nights. Just maybe like 1 or 2 nights out of the week. So those things, they put extra stress on your body. So your sleep cycle is called your circadian rhythm. You see, once you mess that up, it throws off everything in your body. And then I am a woman who have had hormonal issues. I have had PCOS since I was about 21. I discovered it at that time, of course. And they put me on the birth control just like what them do everybody else, until they say I got control it and and then the birth control does a mess with everything. Mm-hmm. And I stopped taking it after I realized it was causing all kind of other problems, and decided me just gonna wing it. Right? So all of those stressors coming down, and notwithstanding the fact that most of my life has been stressful, so we cannot get away from that. Those type of stress really put all kind of internal stress on your organs and your body. This could have manifested itself into other things. Now, I am saying this not knowing if this thing run in my maternal line. It could have come from that as well. Right? But at that particular time, those were the things. Those extended periods of stress, the no sleep, your body is just trying to stay alive, basically. It stresses your cell, then may I deal with anemia because my blood count low. The body just decide that basically, and this is how she kind of explained it after a while. She was like, so your body is crying out and you're not responding. So it's giving you a shout now to say you need to respond to me.
So basically your body was under stress in more ways than one. So,
and has been for years.
So, all right. Before we continue, I am just going to inform those who just joining in. Good evening, everyone that's just joining in. We are speaking to Kaycia, and she has been diagnosed twice in her life with cancer. And we are here tonight to inform and educate. So as you step in, please share and tap up the screen so that others could get this information and also be blessed with this information. So as we continue, Kaycia, so your body was under stress, and so it caused a shift into your hormone.
Right, because it stresses you. Remember, your cells get stressed. Genetically, you will be put under stress if you do certain things. Now, for me, personally, after moving on to other doctors and talking to some other people about my issue, I realized even that my childhood adversities had a play in all of this. Because
Definitely,
it was just
because
it was like majority of my life living in one zone basically.
Right. So your
So
life,
being
the whole
constantly
entire life.
anxious
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, right?
Right.
Because what had happened is that when I was 15, I was basically thrown out of the house by my dad, right? Right after him stopped sending me to school. Between 15 and 18, I was living under a chapaise and Ocherius. I did not have a place to sleep. So for those years, we go again with the no sleep. I had to go into protection mode because now I am a person who has been sexually abused and now me no want no man can draw me for honor here so rape me again. So then, this I learned in therapy is that I went into a zone where I get very activated and alerted because I feel like I'm always having to protect myself from things. This particular time period was one of those. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but I just knew in my head that I could not allow myself to be abused. Again, because me know say out here so elements. Them man here, them now gonna make me leave. It was just so many things in my mind. But anything I me do, I just have to stay safe. Whether it mean no sleep, staying safe is really the goal. So all of those things coming all the way down, me working myself, sending my little brothers to school. I was still working nights at the time, night and day. So from all those years come down, the hormones get disrupted and they have never really had a chance to balance.
So
Yes, dear.
all your childhood, you're basically being a battle.
Survival mode.
Right.
So it's like I'm on a battlefield constantly. So
Right.
it's no, surprise to me that I ended up being diagnosed with PTSD because I was constantly at war. And
Right.
if me no mind sharp to them, it's still a war, but now I can see the war coming and I can kind of buffer it.
Right. So after you got this news that you are diagnosed with cancer and you went home and you're trying to process this information, like I can imagine so much thoughts been going through your head. Like, what was your next move after that?
So I sat down about 3 months and did nothing. I was just going about my business. I went to work. I was like, ah, eh. I think I went straight into denial. So I was a very nonchalant about it. I was like, sure, whatever. But I don't know. So I have delayed response to things. So something will happen to me, and all 2 weeks before I start to show the effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly what happened in this case. So I just came home and I didn't tell anybody. I said, sure, nah, get into that, get up tomorrow, go work, whatever the case may be, and we're moving right along. But one day out of the blue, it just hit me that, little girl, what, you're not going to do something about this? Hello? Then my doctor's office kept calling me to say, hey, oh, you haven't booked an appointment to come back, you haven't said anything, you just went ghost. And they called, and between them and me coming to the realization that, okay, so I have to really and truly figure this thing out. I just went into planning mode basically. So I started to plan fundraisers. That was my first time ever doing events. And I initially went in to see the doctor, and the doctor suggested I do chemotherapy, right? She said, try the chemotherapy and see what happens, and then let's see if anything moves. If nothing moves, then we're going to surgery, right? So I did chemo 3 times, and the last time it nearly killed me. So I said that was not going to work.
So
And
what kind of effect the chemo had on you?
so chemo for me renders me very, very unable to help myself. So I'm just weak. I cannot eat food. I don't have any appetite. If I do eat, I throw up everything. It's just like I don't even know what to really compare to. I don't think I've been that sick so I can even compare to something else, to be honest. It's just one of those things that I would know that I would need a caregiver basically. I wouldn't be able to help myself, like cook for myself, have a shower. I was just weak. It's like once they put those drugs and they shoot it up my system, everything just goes very dark.
What would be your suggestion as it relates to chemo? Because I've been doing some research, and some people have good reaction to it, some people have bad reaction to chemo. What would you tell anyone that's been diagnosed with cancer and chemo is an option?
I would tell them try something else first. I wouldn't suggest you go and sit 3 months like me and do nothing, but everybody deal with them process different, so I am not even going to try to beat somebody who does that. But see if there is anything else. And it also depends on what stage the cancer is. And the next thing I want to say, do not let the doctors rush you into doing anything. Don't let them rush you, because they will rush you. Oh, you got to do this, and they have you on this ball of anxiety. The last thing you need is that kind of stress. Try something else first. Ask questions too. Find out what the chemotherapy drugs are. Know them name and go look for yourself. Talk to one next doctor. Ask some more questions. Because when you get these diagnoses, they know that it put your minds in a frenzy, right? So you don't really think clear. You don't really know how to advocate for yourself, especially if it's your first time. You got in a one wallop or something, and anything somebody say will sound like a solution, you're going to grab for it because you're desperate. Because in your mind, boy, probably me I go dead soon, so me have to do this quick because I want to live. And sometimes the thing that you run to quickly is the thing that will kill you.
So your advice is think it through, do some research, get more advices.
Or talk to some other people who have gone through it, hear what they have to say, if you can find them, whatever the case may be.
Because during my research, I've realized that chemo is like HRT, which is something that female would take when they're going through menopause, right?
Mm-hmm.
And HRT is something that causes some dreadful side effects. It even causes cancer. Many people do not know that because the doctor said, oh, let me put you on HRT, blah, blah, blah. So they just go on it because they want the help. But HRT is something that even causes cancer and even makes certain situations get worse. While my research in cancer realized that chemo is something also is similar, because chemo also causes some damages into your body. It does damage some organs, it does damage your
Mm-hmm.
hormone, it does give a lot of effects. So, and it's not everybody will react to it the same way.
No. But I
So,
think, so our bodies are very unique in terms of our chemical makeup. Because remember, your blood it has its own chemical components. And when you put other chemicals to that, depending on what already exists, you can get any form of reaction. That's why they always have these disclaimers on any type of pill or whatever they give you. And you will take it and you'll be fine, and the next person take it and all kind of things that happen to them. Now, with that being said, most chemotherapy drugs are very strong and they hit you right in your bloodstream. So not the first thing them normally do is kill off all the cells in your body that help you to produce hair. So that's why most people hairless. You lose your hair,
yeah,
right?
that's one of
It
the
will
things I
stop your.
realized
If
as
you're a
well.
woman, you will end up without a cycle if you take chemotherapy for very long. You just cut off your cycle totally, and you are
Right,
absolutely right when it comes to the HRT, because menopausal women normally don't have a cycle.
right,
If you on it long enough, sometimes it can even cause reproductive issues where when you're through, you cannot have children.
right. I've learned about that as well.
Yes,
So, you reached to a point where you had to stop the chemotherapy.
I
What
did.
did you do after you stopped the chemotherapy? Like, was there any other options for you to go through?
Um, so they suggested radiation, but based on what the chemo had done to me at the time, when I looked to radiation, I looked into two things. I looked into radiation. There's something called immunotherapy, where they basically help to build up your immune system. And then I looked into naturopathic medicine, right? So by this time, I was working at a place, and the HR manager there and I became close, and she went She was also diagnosed, but I didn't know this until she came back to work. She was just missing for a couple months, and when I saw her, she was like, I had to go and take off both of my breasts and ray. So she said to me that, I know you're dealing with this thing, and this is how I'm going to do this. So I'm just going to talk to you about it. If you'd like, you can try. She said to me, I did the surgery because this runs in my genes. Either way, I can't escape this thing. So I just get rid of them and call it a day. But I am not going to do anything that they have suggested to me. I'm going to go. By this time, she was already through that protocol with the naturopathic doctor. So she said to me, say, this is what I did. And she gave me the lady number. And she said, you can give her a call. I'm not saying you must, but try it. Another person had suggested another naturopathic doctor to me, and I said, alright, I'm going to play around with two of them, get some information, see what's going on. So I went, booked an appointment with both, and we spoke, told them what was up, and one of them, the lady, said to me that she has experience dealing with this thing, so let's talk about it and let's see how it goes. And I said, alright. We talked, and she said, alright, she would have put me on a thing. No, they call it diet, but it's not really a diet. Because once you start that thing, you have to eat that way. I ate that way for almost 3 years, right? And when it was all said and done, so she said to me that, okay, so what you can do, you can go ahead, do the surgery, and then when you're through, you can come back to me and we can work on getting the insides clean. And I said, alright. So I went ahead, I did some fundraisers, and I went ahead and did my surgery. Went back to her, and of course, you know, with surgery and all them things, that then pump your body with a whole heap of chemical again. Everything is just very, very yes, did a big screen. Very intense with chemicals. And I went back to her, and she put me on this thing that they call a protocol. So what they do, they give you supplements, they put it through a detox, but you're under the watch of the doctor. You know, go home and somebody say drink some bush, and you just go drink whatever you feel like you're drinking. That's not how it works. Because after you go through that with the anesthesia and all kind of things in your body, you can't just go home and somebody say drink some soursop leaf and you feel like that's what you're going to do. Because it will create more problems. So when I went, I'm hearing you. Yes, I was saying I was given it's a long list of things, but it is called a protocol. So you get supplements, you get things to take while you're detoxing, because detox can be very brutal. And you get, I got a sheet with food, what to eat and what not to eat, how to prepare the food, and all of that. And that is what I took, and I ran with that.
So, what are some of the menu that you got to eat?
So some of the things I could have was basically anything that grows in the ground. So it would have been from your sweet potato to your yam, but of course the plate would have been of vegetable. So it would be mostly greens, green juice, the different teas, all the teas that build the immune system. You're gonna
Yeah.
hearing me?
Yeah, man, I'm hearing you.
Okay. So I was saying that what we call ground food, right? That's what we call ground food. But mostly greens. So half of my plate would have been any kind of green vegetable. Anyone I can find, from okra to callaloo to cabbage, pop chow, you name it, once it's green. The teas, I had things like burdock root, even sarsaparilla, people use for other things. It's an immune system builder. I had things like golden seal, echinacea, all of those things help to build up your immune system. So those were in teas. Instead of in terms of meat kind, for the first 3 months, I was not allowed to eat any kind of meat.
No type of meat, just greens.
No, so I would have done like my chickpea if I want something to meat, if you may. No, what a cardboard thing the name, where people love to cook.
Tofu.
Veggie mints, none of them
Veggie
something
mints.
there. Yeah, none of those
So nothing
things.
in a saw
It
you
had to
couldn't
be
eat.
right. It had to be something natural where you can cook. And I just stuck to mostly, to be honest, the regular things where we steam. There's just a cabbage and your regular things. I just stuck to that. And I was making green juice like every single day. Because of course you can't get too much green juice in your system when you're fighting something.
Right. So green juice
Yeah.
is something that helps your body.
Right. I had to
Is
cut out all of the sugars, so I could only have coconut water and water. That was it.
so basically, is it clear to say that your diet helped you to get rid of this the first time? Okay.
Yes.
How long did you had this cancer for the first time?
It was a year and a half. Um, hold on. 2 years. Yeah.
So it took you 2 years with the cancer inside your body. So when you went back to the doctors and they basically have you, what they call it, remission. That's what they call it, right? Remission.
Remission.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you went back to the doctors and the doctor said, I have good news for you, you're in remission. How did you feel?
Excited. Me could have boom boom flick out the people in my office.
You say
That's all
you're
that's
up
for
on
me.
joy mode again.
So you know what? So when I was working with my naturopathic doctor, I only like went in for blood work every 3 months because to be honest, I really wanted to focus on getting my system on par, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want him to try and infiltrate me with all kind of things because that's what they will do.
Right.
So so let me tell you something that is probably not known. Most naturopathic doctors in Jamaica, they are not allowed to take insurance because naturopathic medicine is not really recognized the way it should be. It's unless they're a medical doctor and then they went to study naturopathy. But even so, most of them don't because the insurance companies will not allow them to use insurance. So that whole thing, the reason why I had to keep fundraising, because it's not cheap to eat that way, it's very expensive. So even when I had to go do testing, I would have to go back now to my conventional doctor for them to write these referrals and you go to the place and do whatever. So I was kind of in between. So when I got the paperwork and go back to the consultation with my first doctor and she said, you know, everything is cool and everything is good. No, I got that and I took it back to the naturopathic doctor and we had a whole ball. She was like, yeah, yes, let me tell you, say to that work. Because, you know, down to her lady and whatever.
Yeah.
I wasn't second guessing, but, you know, people did kind of in my head that tell me, say, no, sir, them something and not going to work and very, and a little piece of your mind will always hang on to that foolishness. But when I got the news and she said, yeah, man, you're good now, you're good to go. Keep it up. I was like, wow.
Champagne popping.
Boy, I felt like, what? I feel like I did win one lotto somewhere because I was like, alright. The first thing that popped into my head, I was like, okay, finally I can move on with my life now because cancer, it hold you in one prison, it will hold you hostage. Your entire life now is now, you have to kind of just move your life around this thing because now you have limitations, you can't this, you can't that,
May I ask you a question? So, when you go on your journey with your diet, when you hear say you're in a remission stage and you get excited and you're happy and you know say, yo, I can eat this and I can eat that. What was the first thing or meat that you took a bite out of when you
you know, so I
came?
don't remember. Here what happened to me. I didn't come home and be like, okay, I need to go down to Burger King.
Yeah.
I actually stuck with that particular way of eating, even way over 8-9 months after.
Yeah.
Because guess what now? So when I went back to the naturopathic doctor, she and I had a conversation. And she said to me that the things that you used to do, you cannot go back to doing them.
Right.
She was very serious and normally is a little happy-go-lucky lady. And she said to me, you cannot continue on the path that brought you here. And so you're going to come back here. And I do not want to see you back here. You're too young for this.
Right.
Right? And she said to me, one of the, if you don't do anything else that I ask you to do, you cannot continue to work at nights. Your body will not be balanced as long as you mess up that circadian rhythm that set things on a particular trajectory in your body. You cannot. If you do that, you're going to end up back here. I don't know when, because everybody body different. And I went, and I went back to work, of course, and you can call it say so said so done.
So, all right, because you came out, you're now in remission, right? But as the gleaner stated, you had cancer twice. Explain to us how long after you came out of remission and went back into cancer, and what were the signs you saw in the second phase?
It was a little over a year. So in 2019 is when I went into remission. And in 2020, I think it was about 2 months after the pandemic started, was when I got my result that it had came back. So
Not a good time.
no. And how I got the result is that routine checks. So once you have been diagnosed, in the first in the initial stages of the remission, you go in every 3 months. Then they put you down to 6.
Okay.
And depending on what they keep seeing, or if things looking like they're balanced, you may even go up to a year, like once per year or something like that, right? But in the first, normally 1 to 3 years, it's between 3 months and 6 months. And it was just a routine checkup to see how things are going inside my body, because I decided that because me get good news, me just go slack off and just not do nothing and just be like, alright, I'm gonna live my life and be immature about it, because I realized that was not going to work. And I really didn't want to go back through that journey because it was just too tough. No, of course I went back to working at nights because I was still doing my security job at the time. So whilst I was not pleased, I was not surprised. And I kind of blame myself too when I got that result. I started to self-blame, and I was like, I mean, cause this for myself.
So, what makes you think that you were a contributing factor why it came back?
Just going back to work at nights. It's not that I didn't try to get another job, but I just couldn't, and I had to keep a roof over my head.
So basically, a survival of the fittest. You have to work, food have to eat, roof have to stay over your head, so you never have no choice. So
Yeah.
you get the news again when you go for your routine check. Was it depressing the second time as it was the first time? Or was it even more depressing?
Yeah, the second time around has definitely been more depressing. It has been a kind of a totally different journey, to be honest.
Because it's
The
like,
first time
oh, I
around,
put you another phase again, January star.
the first time around, I was like, alright, so denial. Then I said, alright, let's plan, execute, and do this, do that. How do we move on from here? How do I get on with my life? And it is not centered with this thing. That was my own mindset the first time around. I had the energy to push that way. Never really get down about much, just kept it pushing, moving, like, okay, what we are going to do next? The second time around, I think the events that were to follow is really what has made it into being what it is, to be honest. Because for the first time, I could have said I had a job. Even though when I went to surgery and came back, they really treated me bad. But when I recovered from surgery, I went back to work. So, you know, them say give thanks to small mercies. That was something I could have looked forward to, so I wouldn't be sitting there recovering from surgery and worrying about, oh my God, how am I going to pay the rent next month? I didn't have those type of stress because me kind of set myself in a one way to say that. Even when I was going into surgery, I did a fundraiser before surgery, and I said I paid my landlord 3 months in advance because I said if I don't recover as quickly as these people tell me I am going to, I want to buffer myself because I don't want to be stressed out, because bills will stress me right out. I know that about myself. So once I get them paid and nobody will bother me, I know I can balance out myself otherwise. So the second time around now, when I got it, I said, boy, you know, what me I gonna do? No, the second time around, it stepped up one stage, gone up to 3. That was another thing,
So,
right?
so wait. So when you got diagnosed the first time, it was stage 2. When you get diagnosed the second time, even though you was on observation, when you got the news, it was stage 3.
Yeah.
Was it in the same breast, or
Yes.
was it the same breast? So one would think it would have start back from stage 1 because you're in a observation, you're on observation. So what you think
Um,
cause it for the stage 3 just boom?
I think it was the same black asleep thing, because you see what happened after I went back to work, I actually got promoted, right? So I became the supervisor for the team.
So you have to push out.
And that meant, right, you can't miss work unless something really, really wrong with you. When I go to work, my job is to relieve the 5 people that I supervise. And most of the time, by the time we're done with them for the night, there's no sleep for me because then I got a report to write. So it came, the promotion came with more stress on me and my body. Because even if, when I was stationary at one place and then come and relieve me, I can probably go get 1 hour sleep and come back. When you are looking over people, you don't really have that luxury there.
Yeah.
And if anything happen and somebody's trying to radio you or whatever the case may be, and your radio turn off or turn on or you drop asleep somewhere, you know how that goes. So all of those things, and when I think about these things and my hypervigilance where in my body sit down, that no sleep not really happen, because in my head all me I say, boy, then it's supposed to go drop asleep for 5 minutes and this happen. The whole thing just gone through the window. So that was really, I thought that was what really, really messed up things. And that is why I said earlier on that the same thing that the doctor said is really what played out a year and a little bit later. Because instead of me pulling back, which as we know the choices were not there, but ideally I would have needed to pull back and really go get some rest, continue eating good and whatever to keep things balanced. Who knew if it would have come back maybe later, but so quickly? Because for me, when I got into remission, I said to myself, I'm going to take a year break from just dealing with cancer and just this and that. I'm not going to do anything but try to live and see what it feels like again to live a normal life and not have one thing centered and everything is around this one thing. So I wanted to probably go sit down somewhere and have one dinner, because now when I was dealing with cancer, me not do nothing, because every dollar we me get, if you don't have one test to go do, you have food to buy, you have this to do, you don't have time to really have leisure. You don't have no time. You might find the time, but you're definitely not gonna have the money, because I did not decide to go down a certain route. Because many a times people tell me, boy, you choose a hard way out. Why you go take up bush doctor business by your head? And if you did choose chemo or this and that, you could have get them 2 people to sponsor you, but them not go sponsor that because they don't believe in that.
So regardless of what people are saying, in your head, did you think you made the right choice choosing bush doctor versus scientifical doctors?
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a difference, to be honest. It's just that we don't recognize the work they do. And that is just a societal thing. It's not that they don't do the work. Because if it was just a man running one corner where somebody said, go link that man, man, me know him from me, born. No, that could not work for me. Because I wouldn't
Because
have been comfortable.
because before science, it was bush. We used to rely on the bush for a lot of stuff back in the days in the AD centuries, the BC centuries, coming up to this 20th centuries. But the science came in, so people more try to rely more on science. But when we check history, before science was bush. So in my head, I wouldn't think that you made the wrong choice. It's just for, whatever they give to you, you know. And also you made mention that you are so stressing yourself with lack of sleep, stress, obviously childhood trauma, all of these things, you know. But will you ever get over these things? Only time will tell, right? But at the same time, you are going through this stage now, and it is at stage 3. What are your approach to beat this cancer now?
I would think I have settled on the fact that my approach will be the same. So since the diagnosis on paper, right, since 2020, that year after the diagnosis, I went straight back into eating well. Of course, I couldn't have done a detox because I was working. You cannot detox really when you have to actively go to work. And the job I was doing at the time needed me to be very active. I had to be lifting things, moving things around. It wasn't like a office job where you can go and sometimes you're just not there. That wouldn't have worked for me. But I decided, all right, if I can't do that, then I can do this. So I looked at what I can do or could have done at the time. I can't afford to feed myself well, so I'm going to feed myself well, right? The job I transitioned into, I ended up getting a job that I could have managed to go to work in the days and come home in the evening, so I started sleeping. So I think those are some of the things that have really helped me to keep things balanced since that diagnosis. But a year after that, or less than a year, I would have lost my job in 2021. And since then, things have really been rough financially.
As you mentioned that, let's get to the point where I'm going to ask you, like, how are you managing now as it relates to your medication?
I'm not really managing, to be honest. I'm just winging it, to be honest, because unemployment has really struck in my life, and I don't know because I've been unemployed 1, 2, 3 times
Thank you, Sitara.
within the last, what is it, a year and a half? Yeah, between 2021 and now. I have gone through just bouts of unemployment, bills to pay. I left where I live, went to St. Ann to try, and well, I actually got a job and went there to stay with somebody and ended up being raped happened in February of this year, and I eventually ended up coming back home. So in a bid to set myself on a path to say I'm going to settle here to deal with this thing, I haven't really had the chance to get into that.
So it's like you're on a target for these kind of abuse.
Yeah, because, and to be honest, I don't even know if it's one reason, but sometimes I do feel like a target, and that is the worst part about it, to be honest. And that is why when it comes to things of, the mental health space, sometimes when people say certain things, it really, really rubs me the wrong way. Right? So, I was home, right? And not working. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm familiar with Senton. I know one and two people down there because I used to work at Jamaica Grand before they changed the name, what have you. So I link my supervisor I had at Jamaica Grand and I said to her, boy, this happened, me out of a job for how long, my rent one pay, me have this a bill that the bill, a pile on that the bill that the bill. So she said, I work at X hotel, send in your thing, me I go see if me can pull a string for you. Pull a string, she said you have to go find someone to stay. Link an ex sister me know for over 12 years and she said, yeah man, come in. She put me at one house to stay with her mother and her stepdad. I don't know these people, but I fear people them. And she's like an older sister to me, so me I say, we're supposed to cool, right? Went there, all was well, as per usual, until her mother decided to fly out. Because they are dual citizens, so they go and come. The mother fly out, left me in the house with the man. The man start harass me. Now I pay a man of mine. Because at that time, I was saying to myself that, say, me nah make that man draw me back down in the hole when I try draw me. I was just standing on that. And I say, I have a friend named Sasha, and I used to talk to Sasha about him so often. And I say, Sasha, that man, nah make that man pull me back down. Because I know how dark that hole can get. And I not pay him no mind. So I come out, go work, come back, whatever. Anyway, he eventually left and went overseas, and 2 days after the man leave, somebody broke into the house for me, like after 1 in the morning.
So sad. So
And then
sad.
when it was all said and done, nothing, because the police were called, them come, the fingerprint and the footprint and all kind of print upon the place. They did nothing more than come shine flashlight, take 2 pictures. When when the police demand the CCTV footage from the man, him go say him can't find it, him this, him that. And Jamaica police, when people say, why don't you report something to the police, it really rubs me in a one
Yeah,
nerve.
because
It
sometimes the
makes
police do
no
not.
sense.
Right, I agree.
It don't make no
I
sense. A
agree.
waste of
I
time. You're going to
agree.
waste your time, go to that
I agree.
station, and you're going to get triggered.
Because the
Right?
police, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. As what I see where police is concerned, and that is why I can't put my faith in them. If you're not giving them any money, which they already been getting paid by you as a taxpayer, they still, it's like they're not doing anything, And I used sleep mark that when a couple of years ago when my cousin had passed, and they basically saying to my cousin uncle, listen, we have an idea who do this, but to how things are on right now, you have to go showboat. Forget certain things done. This was a policeman. I said this to him. You get what I mean? I say the police force is so corrupt. I do not trust them, and I can't put my trust in them. We are already paying them taxpayer money, cause we pay tax every year, and them still can't do enough. Them want you to push out. You understand? So I understand what you're saying. It's like it's a waste of time for really. If I know somebody,
It makes no sense.
if I know somebody in the limelights, it not know where I go.
It don't make no sense.
It not go where I go.
And to be honest, this is not even a story that is unique to me, because I remember having a co-worker and somebody broke into her house, and she was living alone at the time, and the police officer them come, and one of them in particular, after them take statement at the girl number, him take off the girl number for the statement and start call her, tell her how her bottom big and this and that.
I've
Now
seen that
imagine
as
you
well.
go,
I've seen that
and
as well.
she had to call the commissioner office to get the man to stop
I've
harass her
seen
phone.
that as well. I've seen that as well.
I was in a situation where I had an ex who him did that start me, and he send all kind of message, and he send email. When me block him, he send email. I went to the station with the emails, come here and say yes, me get that evidence now. Now me gone with all my I was way too confident going there. And I said, yeah, man, me have enough evidence. I then read through this, them must see something wrong with this brother, yeah, and them need to dry him up. Huh? You're the policeman. Me tell you no woman say so when stop give the man them so good enough cause I wanna mad out the man them. And then him hear miss. How you doing man so make the man a mad? So you know me just wheel and turn and just come out that decision because if me answer you, you probably hear say me I go end up on the news. So I'm not gonna answer you. Because I don't know what you're saying to me. Police station a waste of time in Jamaica. It's waste of time.
For real. So, Kaycia, before we go, I want to ask, do you want to share do you have a GoFundMe?
No, I don't have a GoFundMe anymore. I had
So,
3 GoFundMes
if
in the
somebody
past.
wants to donate to you towards um, your journey with cancer, how can they get through to you?
They can follow me, send me an inbox message. I have banking information that I can
One
pass
second.
on. Yes, I was saying that they can possibly follow me and send me a message inbox. I have banking information that I can pass on to them. I have had 3 GoFundMes in order to raise funds, and those people have been very dishonest. And I'm just gonna
Okay.
leave it there.
All right. So guys, I have information. I have contact to Kaycia. If you want to get through to her, you can always go through me if you can't reach to her on TikTok, and she also have her information. So I thank you, Kaycia, for sharing your story with us, and I appreciate the knowledge that you have given to us. I appreciate everyone for joining. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and we appreciate it. Look after yourself, keep safe, and be protected, yeah?
Thank you, and thank you for
All
having
right.
me. Thank
Have
you
a good
guys
one.
in the comments. I'll see you.